me on the TV. Welcome to a late show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Man, what a game tonight. Obviously, the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship, and our coverage continues with my colleagues, Chuck and Kenny. Guys, what do you make of the second half? Guys, are they not here? They're not here. Are you saying they're not here? What does this mean? You can't hear me, or they're not here? They're not here? Well, let's just go to the highlights. Do we not have highlights? Why do we not have highlights? Because it's 5:30 when we recorded this, okay? Well, then why am I so sleepy? And why is it dark outside that window? This is chaos. This is madness. Anywho, it's my first show back in a week. And since we were last together, spring has sprung and the Easter Bunny has left us baskets of his unfertilized chocolate children, just like Jesus commanded. No one's feeling more snacky than New Yorkers, because last week, the state of New York legalized recreational marijuana. That's right, baby. Time to carve the Big Apple into a big bong. Effective immediately, New Yorkers are allowed to possess up to 3 ounces of cannabis. That's a lot of pot. You can either smoke it or use it as mulch. Now, isn't that a lot? 3 ounces is a lot. Who needs 3 ounces? Now, the move to legalize weed in New York, so I've heard. I don't know. I'm not into that scene. I wouldn't know. Now, the move to legalize weed in New York came very abruptly, with some people suggesting that Governor Andrew Cuomo was more motivated to support the move to distract from the recent sexual harassment allegations against him. All right, fellas, we're going to legalize pot. I know it destroys short-term memory. Is there any chance it could destroy all memory? So, pack it down and light it up, but don't buy it, New Yorkers, because experts predict legal sales won't start until late 2022 or early 2023. Until then, folks will have to rely on the existing marijuana infrastructure. Kyle still has a beeper. It's 2021. He still has a beeper. Man, it's cold in here. Does it feel chilly to you? This is comedy weather in here. It's super frosty. Legal weed isn't the only good news. That's that look you're giving me. Is there something wrong with me? You're like, I'm fine. I'm healthy. I've been tested. I'm good. Legal weed isn't the only good news, because there's another popular drug everyone's been injecting. It's the COVID vaccine. This weekend saw over 4 million recorded vaccinations in a day for the first time. At this rate, America will reach herd immunity in just 3 months. April, May, June. That means this 4th of July, your barbecue will once again be a perfectly safe place for your children to run around the grill while your drunk uncle blows off a couple of fingers. Now, I don't pay a lot of attention to the news when we're off, but this week I read every possible article about the career implosion of Florida Congressman and host of Let's Make a Douche, Matt Gaetz. Here's what's been going on. The Justice Department is investigating Gaetz for violating federal sex trafficking laws, specifically whether he had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old and paid for her to travel with him. That is shocking. Who's going to break this to his adopted son, Nestor? Now let's get right to our continuing first-time coverage of Gaetz-Gaete.
Derp.
Tonight on Gaetz-Gaete, Gaetz didn't destroy his political career alone. No, he had help from his longtime friend, former Seminole County tax collector and man selling sandwiches in a strip club parking lot, Joel Greenberg. Last summer, Greenberg was indicted for sex trafficking of a child and financially supporting people in exchange for sex. And authorities allege that Greenberg was Gaetz's friend who procured a number of women for him, and they sometimes shared sexual partners. Okay, sounds risky, but remember, Gaetz always wears protection. Yep, that is definitely covering a dick. Allegedly, Gaetz and Greenberg met these women using websites that connect people who go on dates in exchange for gifts, travel, and allowances. You know, that thing you associate with adults. Allowance. One of the websites is called Seeking Arrangements. Bad news for the guy who was just looking for a floral bouquet for his anniversary and ended up sending his wife an 18-year-old who was down to party. Reportedly, Gaetz and Greenberg paid for travel and hotel rooms where individuals took ecstasy before having sex, including Gaetz. Now, if you're unfamiliar with ecstasy, it's the feeling you get when you hear bad news about Matt Gaetz. Gaetz' office denied the allegation, saying, Matt Gaetz has never paid for sex. Matt Gaetz refutes all the disgusting allegations completely. Matt Gaetz has never, ever been on any such websites whatsoever. Well, Stephen Colbert thinks when Matt Gaetz says Matt Gaetz never paid for sex, it really makes it sound like Matt Gaetz paid for sex, Matt Gaetz, said Stephen Colbert. And reporters for the New York Times have seen receipts to these women from Cash App and Apple Pay. How dumb is Matt Gaetz? Dude, no. Don't leave a paper trail. Use the Cash App. That way it goes all up in the cloud. And then when it rains, the evidence disappears. Gaetz didn't keep his pervy behavior secret, allegedly. He showed his Republican colleagues photos and videos of nude women he said he had slept with while on the House floor. Remember, this is where he works. So you know those mandatory sexual harassment trainings your office holds where the examples they give are all so outrageous, you're like, who is this possibly for? It's for Matt Gaetz. Gaetz also reportedly boasted of his access to women. Who says access to women? They're humans, not the United Airlines Premier Club. Gaetz' reputation for creep goes all the way back to his days in the Florida legislature, where he allegedly created a game where members of the Florida House got points for sleeping with aides, interns, lobbyists, and married legislators. Ooh, fun. You know, the Justice Department has a similar game where instead of points, you get years in prison for sleeping with teenagers. Last week, Gaetz went on the Tucker Carlson to defend himself, and it did not go well. In fact, afterwards, Carlson threw him under the Tucker bus.
If you just saw our Matt Gaetz interview, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever conducted.
Oh, really? Jimmy?
Look at that. Come on.
Amazing.
By the way, we're just learning that none of those cats were 18. Now, if you're a fan of baseball and voting, I've got an important update because on Friday, Major League Baseball announced they are moving the All-Star Game out of Georgia. It's a dramatic story that moves baseball dangerously close to being newsworthy. But MLB has made their decision, so Georgians, if you were planning on attending the game, now you'll have to find a different reason to get day drunk on $9 Miller Lights and falling asleep before noon. Major League Baseball yanked the game because the Georgia GOP passed a major law limiting voting, like adding voter ID requirements for absentee ballots, limiting the use of ballot drop boxes, and making it a crime to approach voters in line to give them food and water. There's your classic Southern hospitality. As it says in the good book, for I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. And then you were arrested because white people in Georgia are terrified of Stacey Abrams. For years, Republicans have been removing polling locations and shortening voting hours in order to make it harder to vote in black districts. And it's sure not a great look that Georgia Governor Brian Kemp signed it behind closed doors, guarded by state troopers, surrounded by white men, while sitting under a painting of a slave plantation. He then celebrated by watching Gone with the Wind and singing all the words to Gold Digger. It is so blatantly racist that it's been dubbed Jim Crow 2.0. 2.0? Really? Georgia's passed so many voter suppression measures, they've got to be up to at least Jim Crow snow leopard. So on Friday, it's an Apple joke. So on Friday, the league released a statement saying Major League Baseball fundamentally supports voting rights for all Americans and opposes restrictions to the ballot box. You know it's bad when an organization that includes the Atlanta Braves and the Cleveland Indians says you're too racist. That's like Matt Gaetz telling you to date your own age. Oh, speaking of sex criminals, the former president put out a statement on MLB's decision, as well as other corporations who have criticized Georgia, saying, it's finally time for Republicans and conservatives to fight back. We have more people than they do by far. Boycott Major League Baseball, Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, JP Morgan Chase, Viacom CBS, Citigroup, Cisco, UPS, and Merck. Together, that constitutes a sector of the economy experts call the economy. His supporters are going to have to go generic. I hope you like Great Value Bat and Ball Product and Kirkland Signature Airlines. Plus, it's really hard to imagine him giving up his beloved Diet Coke. If he needs a pick-me-up, he'll have to ask Don Jr. to share his supply of Coke Classic. We got a great show for you tonight. My guests are John Cena and Senator Tammy Duckworth. But when we return, the former president is the grift that keeps on grifting. Stick around.